Welcome back, everybody, to this week's episode of Enough. We're so happy that you're here with us and ready to listen for another fun episode. This week, we're going to be talking about why the church matters. You know, especially right now in today's culture, the church is kind of put to a side. And sometimes even often for me, the church just seems stale. It seems like, why do I have to wake up early on a Sunday morning to go to like hour and a half, maybe double that if you're going to Orthros kind of service? Why do I have to go to all these extra services during the week? Why does it matter? And today we really wanted to dive into it. And so in preparation for that, Stavros, Jojo, and I all took, I think it was like 15 minutes or something. We asked ourselves this question as we were on a FaceTime call prepping, and we all wrote down, I think we came up with 7 reasons why the church matters to us. And if you follow our Instagram, you'll see those later this week, the whole list. But for this episode today, we really wanted to focus on the 3 that really spoke to us the most. So, Stav, do you want to kind of take the first one and tell us why the church
Of
matters to
course.
you?
So one of the things that, I think the church really helped me, at least through my life, and what I've seen it help my family or people I know, is the church is really, really a hospital. It's a healing place for people to go. And I found a verse that I want to share before I kind of dive into this. I'm going to use my James chapter 5, verse 14. Is anyone among you sick? Let them call the elders of the church to pray over them and anoint them with oil in the name of the Lord. And I kind of look at this as like, so I had one of my brothers, he went through a lot of times in his life where he kind of questioned, what's the point of this? What are we doing here? Kind of, what's the church for? Like this, exactly. Why is the church important? And that kind of set him back in life. And he had his years where, he wasn't going to church, and he was very, very sick, not in a physical way all the time, either in a mental way or an emotional way. And, we, as a family and as brothers, we started to kind of show him these scriptures. We kind of started to take him to church more as he got older and was actually more mature with his thinking, which was good. So being able to take him, and for me personally, when I was seeing him actually get better, I was like, wow, okay, this is actually pretty cool. And I kind of saw myself kind of every time I would go into church, and like after I would leave church, I would be a lot more calmer, I would be more peaceful. And then as I would go more and more, it would keep growing. That sense of peace and that sense of healing would just keep growing the more you do it. And I think that personal growth and that your relationship with God and your healing process throughout your entire life is very, very important. And I think that's one of the most important things that our church offers, is the healing process every day.
Yeah, I really like what you talked about. Sort of makes me think about how powerful the church is when we really use it to our full, to its full, wholesome ability. It really like we hear sometimes, it's a place to save sinners. It's not, it's not a place for all the, the good people in society to go and just kind of sit on their high horse. But it's, all of us are broken, and we all need to come to the church and find this healing, which is something we all need. So I really like that, Stavros. I sort of wanted to take a different direction with the reason that church matters to me. And this is just sort of personally, and this is, I think, what has been the biggest for me in my life, is it's just the church gives us this perfect worldview. And just the way to look at things, way to look at situations that's rooted deeply in love and in truth. And I think that is such a valuable thing to have, just as a way to navigate. For me, this year, it was my first year in college, and obviously with college and freshman year, you see a lot of different things that you're not really familiar with and necessarily comfortable with all the time. And so that was huge for me to have that presence of the church there for me, so I could see the things that was happening in front of me with sort of a different view than any other lens that I would have that with. So I think that's super valuable. And just that can guide you in all kinds of situations, how you love a person, how you treat a person, how you, it could be anything. And that's really just a thing that the church gives us all is just that perfect worldview that we have confidence that is the perfect view and love. So
Yeah, I really enjoyed what both you guys were saying. Kind of want to circle back to one of JoJo's points of the church is a place, it's a hospital. I guess that goes to Stav's point too. It's a place for healing. So, we should never look at the church and say, I'm not perfect enough to be in there. Rather, it's the opposite. I'm such a sinner. I'm such a broken person. And that's why I need the church. Right. Um, but yeah, the point I picked really is, again, it's a personal thing for me. And in all of these things that we were talking about today, these are why we as individuals love the church. And so hopefully this sparks kind of a reflection in you to really go back and say, why do I love the church? Why does it matter to me? But my point was that it gives me a purpose, and it kind of jumps off of what JoJo was saying. But oftentimes, like, I'm high up on my pedestal, as my family will say. I think I'm like the one the world was made for. I'm the center of the universe, right? Right off the bat, the church says no, that's not true, right? But it gives me something to grow into and to work for. Life is tough. The world isn't always, a happy, joyful place. There's a lot of hardships, and in those moments, like Sal was talking about, of doubt and sickness, whether it be spiritual, mental, or physical, the church is there to say, hey, like, I'm here for you. Like, Christ is there to really say, I'm going to grab you out of hell like I did from Adam and raise you to my kingdom, right? And it gives you this sense of purpose, something to work for. And this, as I was thinking about this, a verse came to mind from the Bible, and it's actually the verse that the Enough title came from a while back when it was first kind of conceived. And it reads from 2 Corinthians chapter 12, verse 9, and a small part of that, but it says, my grace is sufficient for you, for my strength is made perfect in weakness. And it really shows, like, hey, you don't have to be perfect, like JoJo was talking about. You don't have to be fully healed, right? Like Sal was talking about. But wherever you are, the church, Christ, God will meet you where you're at. And through all of that, through the motivation it gives to fight temptations, to get out of this kind of darkness and gloominess that we often will find in our lives, whether it be lack of motivation or just separation from God, the church gives you a way out. And it really helps us to realize that we're children of God and that God will never lead us astray.
yeah, I love that. It just makes me think like I want to sort of tie all these things we talked about together, why the church matters in a wholesome way. Um, the church is not just like this old stale organization with like these old traditions that no one cares about and they're just there for tradition's sake, but rather it provides life-giving healing. It gives us a purpose. It gives us this beautiful worldview that we can rely on in all things. And and when we think about those three things I just talked about, purpose, worldview, and healing, those aren't just things that like a small group of Christians need. Like these are things that every single human being needs as like a pillar of life. And so that's, I just think what we wanted to talk about is that just highlights why the church is so important in all of our lives, not just for a select group of us. And so I think we need to remember how the church can really be there for us. We just need to really seek it out. So,
Yeah, and I think the last thing is, the church and God, it's enough. Like all these, we kind of people, I mean, even me, we get carried away with these material things, trying to replace certain things. And don't get me wrong, like material things are not bad. Like that's not what I'm trying to get at. Like I love my material things. I'll be the first, like I love it, but in the end, like the only thing that really matters and is enough for what you truly need in your life is God and is the church. And I'll say I think that's the most important, is that it's enough.
Right.
So
It says it all. It says it all.
yeah.
So, as you go about this upcoming week, really take time to reflect on why the church matters to you, right? You heard our reasons, but now it's time for you to think of your reasons and take that and pray about it, and pray to continue to see these things. And as you do this and remember that God is enough, know that, we're here. Then if you have any questions and need things to be talked about, direct message us on Instagram at Orthodoxy Daily, which you all should be following if you haven't been already, or drop it in the comments of the YouTube channel that you can find at the Enough Podcast. And, we'll do our best to get these questions answered because, we know a lot of people have questions and maybe the church hasn't been doing the greatest job of answering them, but hopefully we can do our small part. With all of that said, we'll see you guys next week.
Christ is risen.